This week on Capital Discourse, the President's docket. The Supreme Court takes center stage. Weighing in on executive power and the Federal Reserve's independence. Are we witnessing a new chapter in the balance between politics and the nation's financial backbone? The Article II Chronicles. From Minneapolis to the nation, shifting ICE policies spark debate. Are we seeing reform or just more headlines? Congress and the mandate. As the midterms heat up, we take a look at New York's 24th district. Voter outrage and razor-thin margins. Does this district represent what might tip the balance of power to the Democrats? Concessions and the Oval. Foreign policy stumbles. Greenland, Denmark, and NATO. What's at stake when America's credibility is on the line? From our panel, join our moderator, Dakota Jones. Panelists Richard Cardoza and TJ Fields, plus special guest Jim Cannon from indivisible Oswego County, as we break down the stories shaping your future. This is Capital Discourse, where policy meets the people.
To look like the sky. They tell you be quiet, don't you dare ask why. Your strength is a threat, your voice is too loud. Just another face lost in the faceless crowd. No more. But the spirit ain't gentle and the will won't break. For every future, every soul at stake. Scream, shattering the fragments of a broken dream. We rise from the ashes of the hate they sow. A symphony of voices letting freedom grow. The old world is burning. What will you build in this place?
Let's go! Level up! Stronger!
I grind through the struggle, sweat in my veins, iron in will, I'm breaking these chains, heart like a lion, mind on attack, every setback, I'm never looking back, symphony rising, destiny's calling, every rep, every step, I'm never falling.
Level up, everybody level up, push it, never gonna give up.
Hey y'all, welcome to Capital Discourse, where the stakes are high, the opinions are higher, and the caffeine is somehow always cold. I'm Morgan Chase, and today I'll be your guide through the labyrinth of leadership, legislation, and whatever else Congress decided to argue about before their third lunch break. So, 2026 is shaping up to be the year the Supreme Court decides who gets to be American and who gets to control the economy. No pressure, right? President Trump has 2 cases heading to the highest court in the land, and honestly, the stakes are so massive, we had to break them down for you. Let's start with the wild one. Trump versus Barbara. The question is simple. Can the president just take away citizenship from babies born in America? Yeah, you read that right. Trump's argument, the 14th Amendment, you know, the one passed after the Civil War to protect formerly enslaved people. So basically, he's saying 150 years of legal precedent is wrong, that millions of American-born children don't actually belong here. The other side. They're saying the Constitution means what it says. If you're born on American soil, you're an American. A revolutionary concept. I know, right? Oral arguments are April 1st. Decision by late June. And when this ruling comes down, it's going to reshape the entire immigration debate for a generation. Now, if you thought that was heavy, buckle up. Trump versus Cook. This is about something even more personal to your wallet. Who really controls America's money? Here's the situation. President Trump wants to remove Lisa Cook, the first black woman to ever serve as a Federal Reserve governor, on the accusation engaging in mortgage fraud. That she, within the space of 2 weeks, she had designated both a house in Michigan and a condo in Atlanta as her primary residence when taking out loans, which would have allowed her to receive more favorable terms. Trump said, at a minimum, this exhibits the sort of gross negligence in financial transactions that calls into question her competence and trustworthiness as a financial regulator. Cook has stated she unequivocally denies the accusations of mortgage fraud, and she says that she is prepared to refute the allegations in an appropriate forum. But here's the thing, no matter what your thoughts are here, the Federal Reserve is supposed to be independent, insulated from political pressure, free to make decisions based on what's good for the economy, not what's good for the president. And a person can only be removed for cause. So the very independence that the Fed was made for, to regulate the nation's economy justly and unbiased, that is under attack. So if President Trump wins this case, the president gets the power to fire Fed governors whenever he wants. No restrictions, no checks. That means future presidents could stack the Fed with loyalists who will raise or lower interest rates based on what helps them politically, not what helps the economy. Think about it. A president could slash rates before an election to boost the economy and his chances of winning, or keep them high to punish his enemies. Your mortgage, your car loan, your job, all of it becomes a political tool. The markets already showed us what they think about this. When Trump nominated Kevin Warsh as the new Fed chair, a guy known for his independence and credibility, gold and silver prices crashed. Silver had its biggest one-day drop since 1980. The dollar strengthened. The market was basically saying, thank God, at least the Fed might stay independent. This does not mean that he will not play the president's game and make the Fed less independent. However, it shows how fragile the Fed is. If investors are terrified that if the Fed loses its independence, the whole financial system becomes unpredictable, we all should watch this closely. Here's what you need to understand. The Federal Reserve's independence isn't just some boring bureaucratic thing. It's the foundation of global confidence in American money. The dollar is the world's reserve currency because people trust that the Fed makes decisions based on sound economics, not politics. Our politics are a total mess. If the economic trust disappears, the dollar weakens. Your savings are worth less. Inflation spirals. Everything gets more expensive, and my cheeseburger costs too much as it is. And it all starts with this case, with whether the president can fire Lisa Cook, and whether one person gets to control the Fed. My DoorDash takes too long as to arrive as is. Let's hope my cheeseburger can stay below $20. These two cases don't just affect policy, they affect you, your citizenship, your job security, your ability to buy a house, and your retirement savings. But it goes even deeper, because if the Supreme Court starts questioning who is really an American, what does that mean for legal citizens? People born in United States going back generations, what is the cutoff? How about people born in non-states? Will this be defined? Places like Washington, D.C., or Puerto Rico? Are their rights up for grabs too? Is there a bigger existential crisis brewing about what it means to belong in this country? The Supreme Court is about to decide how much power the president actually has over your rights and your money, and maybe, just maybe, over the very definition of who counts as American at all. Arguments are coming. Decisions are coming. And when they do, nothing's going to be the same, that much we all know. So the country has been tense. No, scratch that. The country has been furious for months. No, actually a year. Dealing with tariffs that flip like a coin. It's guided by one principle that depends on the mood of the president and what he had for breakfast. Foreign policy disasters. So many we can't even keep track of anymore. But underneath all of that, there's something that cuts deeper. Something that makes people's blood boil. And that's ICE, Border Patrol. The machinery of enforcement that's supposed to keep us safe, but keeps leaving bodies in its wake. We've all seen it. We've all felt it, and everyone is talking about it. But really, how bad has it gotten? Let me give you the numbers first, then we'll talk about the people. In the first 25 days of 2026, yes, 25 days, there have been 16 ICE shooting incidents. And no, that doesn't include the guy falling on ice. But 4 people are dead. 7 more traumatized, forever changed, and if this keeps up, we're looking at over 230 shootings this year. 230. That's not law enforcement. That's a war zone. That's a crisis unfolding in real time while we sit here and debate policy. But here's the thing that should terrify you. As if that was not enough. ICE agents are being trained in just 47 days, so less than 2 months. That's it. Let that sink in. But let us compare that to other federal agencies. The FBI, 20 weeks. The Secret Service, 28 to 29 weeks. The DEA, 16 to 18 weeks. The ATF, 27 weeks. The U.S. Marshals, 18 weeks. And how about state police? Even in Republican-led states, they're getting 10 to 23 weeks of training. Florida, 19 weeks. Texas, 17 weeks. Ohio, 18 weeks. But ICE, 47 days, the shortest federal training in America. And we're giving these agents, many of whom have no college degree, no prior law enforcement experience, outside of being the bouncer at the local bar, the power to detain, interrogate, and shoot people. Think about that. We require more training to become a hairdresser, between 9 to 24 months, than we require to become an ICE agent with a gun. But numbers don't cry. Numbers don't have families. But you know what Renee Good did. On January 7th, 2026, Renee was shot in the head during an ICE operation in Minneapolis. Shot in the head. And you know what happened after? The Department of Justice, the DOJ, tried to investigate her for criminal liability after she was dead. How about accountability? I don't know. Ask Alex Pretty. January 24th? ICE agents show up and shoot Alex dead. We all seen the video. No need for me to go into it. But, you know, here's where the hypocrisy gets infuriating. Alex was legally carrying a weapon, a gun he had every right to have under the Second Amendment. The Trump administration, the same administration that screams about gun rights, that champions the Second Amendment, the ones that say Americans everywhere need weapons to protect themselves, are the ones that say, that's what got Alex killed. That's their excuse. A legally carried firearm, that's what they're blaming. But let's be clear about what actually happened. Alex was shot by agents trained for 47 days. Agents with de-escalation skills of a high school football team at a Chinese buffet and less training than the guy planning the tractor pull event in Georgia. Agents who didn't know how to assess a situation. Agents who saw a weapon and panicked and fired after their partner cleared the suspect of the same weapon they blame as the cause. That's not Alex's fault. That's not the Second Amendment's fault. That's the fault of a system that puts undertrained, trigger-happy agents on the street and then blames the victim for exercising his constitutional rights. This makes for an unsafe environment for the actual police that work every day under threat, while actually trying to bond with a community to serve. The administration wants you to believe that the problem is Alex had a gun. The real problem is that the people who shot him got 6 weeks of training. The real problem is that we're hiring agents with no college degree, no experience, and minimal instruction, handing them a badge and a gun and then acting shocked when they kill someone. The real problem is that when they do, we blame the dead guy instead of the system that failed him. The Twin Cities are still reeling, families are still grieving, and the agents, they're still out there, still operating with minimal oversight. And the administration is still lying about why it happened. 73,000 people are locked up by ICE right now, and more than 60% of them, they're in private prisons. That's what this is about. Geo Group, Core Civic, LaSalle, these companies are profiting off human suffering. Geo Group made $2.4 billion last year. Up to $800 million of that came from ICE contracts. Core Civic pulled in nearly $2 billion, with $500 to $600 million from immigration detention. Let that sink in. We're not just detaining people, we're monetizing their detention. We're creating a system where private companies have a financial incentive to keep people locked up. That's not justice. That's a business model built on human misery. And we're doing it with agents who got 6 weeks of training. The data shows that undocumented immigrants commit violent crimes at a rate of 1.8 per 1,000 people. Native-born Americans, 3.5 per 1,000. Legal immigrants, 0.9 per 1,000. So we're building this massive enforcement apparatus. We're hiring agents with the shortest federal training in America. We're shooting people in the streets. We're locking up 73,000 human beings. We're enriching private prison corporations. And for what? The people we're targeting are statistically less likely to commit violent crimes than the rest of us. We're doing all of this based on fear, not facts. Based on rhetoric, not reality. And we're doing it with a workforce that's been trained for less time than it takes to get a commercial driver's license. Not to mention ICE tried to breach the Ecuadorian consulate in Minneapolis. Who are you going to deport there? Yourself. Are you going to deport yourself from the Ecuadorian consulate? Did you fall asleep during civics and econ? Dude, that's an international incident. Ecuador formally accused ICE of attempting to violate their sovereignty. And now the House Foreign Affairs Committee had to step in and condemn it just to save face. We're not just failing our own citizens anymore, we're embarrassing ourselves on the world stage. We're showing the world that we don't respect international law, that we don't respect borders, unless they're our borders, apparently. And we're doing it with agents who got 6 weeks of training. So where are the leaders? Where's the accountability? Can the adults come back now? Because I think we need some supervision, but for some, it is a touch too late. Renee Good is still dead. Alex Preddy is still dead. Ismael Ayala Uribe is still dead. Serawit Gezaheng Dejene is still dead. Non Ngoch Nguyen is still dead. We're watching in real time. We're watching it fail Renee. We're watching it fail Alex. We're watching it fail thousands of people every single day. And we're still waiting for someone, anyone, to actually do something about it. So here we are, less than a year away from the 2026 midterm elections, and Congress is basically having a collective meltdown. Voters in places that never vote Democratic are suddenly losing their minds and realizing there is a second column on the ballot. Mitch McConnell's out, John Thune's in. And suddenly, Congress is acting like they didn't spend the last few years frozen in time. So here's the thing. In 20 of the last 22 midterm elections since 1938, the party in power has gotten absolutely demolished. The only times they didn't, George W. after 9/11, when people were too scared to think straight, and FDR in 1938. Republicans currently have 220 House seats. They need 218 to stay in charge. That's a margin of two seats between power and irrelevance. And they're sweating. Here's what's wild. The anger isn't just in blue cities anymore. It's in suburbs. It's in college towns. It's in places that have voted Republican since Reagan was president. People are pissed. And in New York's 24th congressional district, a place that has suburbs and college towns and has lifelong Republicans who are just done with this mess. Claudia Tenney, who has been representing New York's 24th since 2023. A swing district, Trump won it in 2016, Biden won it in 2020. And the voters are asking the most basic question: what have you actually done for us? The honest answer? Not much. Tenney has passed zero significant legislation for her district. Infrastructure? Nope. Healthcare? Nope. Cost of living crisis? Definitely not touching that. Instead, she's been busy doing what Congress does best, talking a big game while delivering absolutely nothing. Constituents can't reach her office. Town halls? Rare. Responsiveness? Minimal. She's basically a representative who represents nobody. In a district tired of partisan nonsense, Claudia Tenney is the embodiment of what voters are voting against. A member of Congress who shows up, collects a paycheck, and pretends to work. The problem, though, this is happening everywhere. Congress has become an obstacle, not an advocate. And voters are finally noticing. But wait, there's more. While Congress is busy doing nothing, there's a systematic effort to make voting harder. Redistricting, polling place closures, voter ID restrictions, it's all happening right now. Texas Republicans redrew districts to gain 5 extra seats. California Democrats are fighting back, though. But the real victims, the voters whose voices are being literally carved out of the map. Polling places are being moved, consolidated, or straight up eliminated, mostly in communities of color and low-income neighborhoods. Early voting periods are shrinking. Voter ID requirements are getting stricter, and nobody's calling it what it is: voter suppression. When you make it harder for people to vote, you're not protecting elections, you're attacking democracy. Let's just say it plainly, clearly, but here is the deal. If Republicans lose the House, this presidency enters its defensive phase. Oversight hearings happen, investigations start, the administration stops getting a free pass. If Democrats take control, they can actually investigate, legislate, and represent people who've been ignored for years. Current trends suggest Democrats could gain 11 to 19 House seats. That flips the chamber, but only if people actually vote. But let's be clear, we must hold Democrats accountable. They must actually lead and represent, not just say useless words. There is a lot of work to do. This isn't about left versus right. This is about whether you matter in your own democracy. When you see a representative like Claudia Tenney who won't fight for you, won't pass legislation, won't even show up, that's your signal. When polling places close in your neighborhood, when voting gets harder, when districts get redrawn to silence you, that's your signal. The 2026 midterms are your chance to be heard. Not in 14 months when it's convenient. Now, when it actually counts. Voter outrage in traditionally Republican areas is real. It's growing. And it's because people are exhausted with representatives who don't represent them, with a system rigged against them. Midterm elections are about accountability. They're about telling Washington, we're watching. We're paying attention. And we are done. In New York's 24th, to the suburbs across America, in communities that have been taken for granted, voters are waking up. They are waking up, waking all the way up. The question is, will you? November 2026 is coming. Register to vote. Know your polling location. Bring your ID. And for the love of democracy, vote. Because democracy isn't something that happens to you. It's something you have to fight for. Peace through strength. Sounds great, right? Except it's not working, it's backfiring, and I'm genuinely confused about how we got here. Tonight, the Greenland Gambit and the stunning hypocrisy behind it. Buckle up, buttercups, first up the disaster. The Trump administration spent the last month of 2025 trying to buy Greenland, and when that failed, they spent the first month of 2026 trying to seize Greenland from Denmark, a NATO ally. Not negotiate, seize. Oh, but wait. Here's what that accomplished. Nothing. Nothing except making us look completely unhinged and proving this administration doesn't understand nationalism. Denmark is literally the poster child for what they claim to love: tough immigration laws, low crime, mandatory military conscription. But instead of working with them, we threaten to take their territory like a supervillain. But then we just back down. Thank you so much, Davos. Now you would think we'd be done, but no, we just insulted NATO, our allies, for not being aggressive enough in Afghanistan. So we're mad at them for not being aggressive, but we're the ones being aggressive. Last time I checked, that is like an annoying gym bro at Planet Fitness. If you are confused, I am confused too. If you are not, you should be. America. I think we might just be the problem. Not me. It's we. We are the problem, you see. Here's where it gets wild. The far-right European parties Trump was supposed to ally with are calling him out for imperialism. Jordan Bardella from France's National Rally says Trump is practicing coercion. Alice Weidel from Germany's AfD party accused him of violating his own campaign promise not to interfere in other countries. Let that sink in. The far-right nationalists are telling Trump he's being too imperial. That's a warning. Even Viktor Orban dodged questions about it. Because European nationalism is sacred about sovereignty, Trump approaches the world like a real estate developer. He doesn't get that. For them, sovereignty isn't a transaction. It's fundamental. New polling. Only 16% of EU citizens see the US as an ally now. 20% see us as a rival or enemy. That's a massive collapse in 1 month. And while this was happening, 44 soldiers died in Afghanistan, one of the highest per capita death tolls among all coalition forces. In remembrance, they placed 44 flags honoring them, but U.S. embassy staff removed those flags. But after they did, they had to apologize and put them back. In response, hundreds of Danish veterans staged a silent protest outside the U.S. embassy in Copenhagen. Martin Aholm, a veteran who lost both his legs to an IED, said he feels angry and betrayed. And he said, "I think America has lost its soul. It's not the America I grew up with, where America was the defender of peace in the world. But you know what? This is peace through strength. When you insult the people who bled for you." Here's where my brain breaks. While threatening to seize Greenland, the administration is launching massive deportation operations inside the U.S. We will take other people's land. We will remove people from ours. It's imperialism abroad and ethnic cleansing at home, all wrapped in strength and sovereignty. But sovereignty doesn't mean you get to take what belongs to others. And strength doesn't mean disrespecting people who died fighting alongside you. The administration claims to defend Western civilization, but Western civilization is built on the rule of law, respecting borders, honoring alliances. This does the opposite. So which is it? Are we defending it or destroying it? I'm confused. Peace through strength was supposed to show strength. Instead, it showed incompetence. We damaged relationships with allies over a real estate fantasy. Credibility, gone. Influence in Europe, collapsing. Moral authority, destroyed. Foreign policy isn't a deal. It's built on trust, consistency, and respect. And this administration squandered all three in 1 month. I'm confused. I'm frustrated. And I'm pretty sure the rest of the world is too. Maybe we should have had 48 days of training. And not just 47 days of training. Well, America, this has been Flashpoint Rundown. And I am Morgan Chase.
Welcome in, everybody, to Capital Discourse. I am your host, Dakota Jones, and we're here for another week. It's been a very, very busy week, and I wish I could say in a good way, but it has been for the last several weeks. It's been a lot of stress and turmoil. We're going to get into that today, but first, I'd like to introduce into my co-host, TJ Cash, as well as Richard. How you guys doing today?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
And joining us from the indivisible Oswego County as well is Jim Cannon. How are you doing today as well?
Good, thank you, sir. How are you?
Outstanding. TJ, I know I cut you off there. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty awesome.
Outstanding. Good. We're going to really kind of just dive right into this. We've had our intro monologue already being provided to us. So we're really going to hop into these court cases. We know that there's been a lot going on, a lot of movement inside of the Supreme Court. We know that a lot of cases have brought up. Birthright citizenship is on the docket currently with that, and we know that has been under fire. It's disturbing to me how this administration has really kind of just done a full frontal assault on the rights that have been provided and have been unquestioned for 250 years now. And yet, for some reason, we've chosen this time as the appropriate time to try to remove birthright citizenship. We've done an attack on freedom of speech. It seems to me that this administration has really kind of decided that when it suits them, they will get rid of it. But then when it doesn't suit them and they need it, it's okay for it. We've seen this multiple times already. I know, guys, you guys will not bend and throw anything in at any point here. But when it comes down to it, we've got multiple cases here. I know that Trump versus Barbara, that's going to be against the birthright citizenship that's coming up. We've got Tim Cook. Cook from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. She was fired, and they are challenging the independence of the FTC as well, because they wanted to lower the interest rates. And this has been a fight between the federal chair as well as the president and his administration. And this has really been going over the inflation. There's so many pieces here to the puzzle, but one of the biggest things that really kind of comes at us, what we've all witnessed in the last week here with Minnesota and inside of Minnesota, Minneapolis specifically, with the multiple injuries and shootings that have taken place during protests and the shooting of both Erica Good as well as Eric Craig. Guys, you want to give me your thoughts, because it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know the obvious. It is the Republic retribution. They are all trying to, destroy everything that we've been built on for the past, 250 years and so. So it's really just, quite amusing, but at the same time quite disturbing.
It's
so what are we celebrating this year? You mentioned 250 years, right? So what is it that this celebration is going to entail, right? Our like the wonderful America that we built in over 250 years that is being torn down on a daily, minute by minute basis by an administration that cares solely for themselves and no one else. How are we supposed to interpret this as the American people?
How? And these are the questions that I ask too every day. I look at it, I look at the news and watch what comes out, all the breaking pieces here, and I'm like, when do we question? When do the questions start? Do they have to start answering the questions? Every time we hear them speak, we ask questions, they get questions asked. They don't like the questions, they replace the reporter. They kick the agency out, When are they actually going to answer the questions? We've seen way too much distraction game, the distraction game of this. Let's go ahead and invade Venezuela to distract from the Epstein files. Let's talk about taking Greenland and making it the 51st state to distract from whatever. I mean, it's a game of distraction while the rest of us sit and struggle. But in general, at this point, it can't continue. We can't actually physically continue to survive this. And I think one of our first main pieces here will actually kind of be able to be used with the upcoming midterm election, where we are able to kind of really express our voices. And I've said this before on this show, where the midterm elections are the most important part of democracy. This is where we're able to course correct a president. We're able to course correct a country. This is what that is for. The local piece is the most important piece. And it's one of the reasons why we brought Indivisible Oswego County to kind of chat with us today as well, because that local piece is really the most important piece when we're talking about what we're going through right now. We've seen this very laxed look towards the local elections to the off presidential years, where folks are not engaged. And this is where, as I've said before, this is where this is where they get power. This is how they start. We vote them into local councils. We vote them in to the mayors. We vote them in to statewide elections. This is where they begin. And then they move their way up the ranks and become career politicians. And they sell the same crap that they were selling us before. We just let them get away with it because we keep letting them back in the local election. Guys like Jim, you guys are down there. You're on the front lines of really kind of trying to change that mindset. You guys want to tell us about your organization a little bit down there at the IOC?
Well, Indivisible Oswego County started about a year ago with 8 people around a table. It was about the fact that we realized that things were going to start slipping. Over the last year, we've grown to about, some days we do what we call the bridge, which we are out every Saturday morning in beautiful upstate New York weather, rain, snow, sleet, or hail. We spend an hour on the bridge with signs protesting. And we will have up to 160, a couple times we've had 200 people out there. And this is a county of 100,000 people. It's one of the poorest counties in New York State. And unfortunately, the last few years, the Republicans have had a stronghold here. But November of 25, they got a bit of a shock. They went from being a majority of 23 to 2, majority of 18 to 6. So we gained 5 seats to get 7 more this year. And with the way that the administration is helping us is by continuing with the crushing of our, getting rid of what the people want as far as what benefits are. The ACA, big thing. When I said we're a very poor county, Medicaid's an issue, SNAP's an issue, and all that is just pushing people farther to the left. So we're very optimistic that this year is going to be a good year again.
Yeah, absolutely. And Oswego County is kind of more of a near and dear thing to me. I lived in Oswego County. I actually taught in Oswego County, taught high school in Oswego County. So I have a connection there. And I know that, not only has the county been ignored by its local leadership for quite some time, but the citizens have felt alienated, not only by the local leadership, but also by the state. You've got the local leaders that had been there before. When I was there, it was Jim Katko, and as I was leaving, Claudia Tenney was taking over, and that was the 24th district. And as we're approaching the midterm elections, I know that Claudia Tenney is up for re-election again, and I know that there are contestants against her, but in reality, she's facing stiffer and stiffer opposition each time, and hopefully we're able to kind of bring some level of opposition that will either A, make her listen, or B, unseat her. I know that you guys said, we were talking earlier, you guys said that you had some opposition that was running against her. How are you guys feeling about that up there? And you know, what are the things that others could bring to the table to kind of help out?
Well, I think right now we're really lucky. We've got two good Democratic candidates. One is a veteran and another is a businesswoman. They're both hard already. Plus, we just found out that Kenny's going to have to go against a Republican in a primary, which can only help us. And there's also an independent. There's more than one perspective out there. And I'll tell you that the Republican is afraid, and in some ways, because after the first of the year, or the end of the year, there was an interview and they said, you can thank people on the bridge, IOC, for the 6 seats we picked up.
Yes.
So they know, and Tenny won't come here. We've sent to town halls, and we've had to use her cardboard cutout because she won't show up. The second one, we have one on February 14th. We're inviting all the candidates, whether they're Republican, Independent, or Democrat, to come and speak to us, so we have an idea what's going on. And of course, again, she's not going to come, and we know that. And whenever she does come, and anybody asks her a question, she runs as fast as she can to get out of the county. So
it blows my mind, you know, how uninvolved she was when I was there. As I was moving away, I saw how uninvolved, and I remember, you know, I didn't necessarily always agree with him, John Cacco, but at least I saw him. And I don't think that you guys have actually seen her in any event at all while I was there. I know that much, but then I think afterwards, I know that a lot of people have told me that, you know, we're not represented, and that's frightening. It's frightening, you know, that you know, you're in a district and couldn't be bothered to be, you know, attend. And Oswego County plays a very large role in politics as a large inside of New York State. You guys have are home to, I believe, Will Barkley in Oswego, you know, where he, you know, Republican, but he is the minority leader inside of the House there, or the Senate there, the Assembly. And so
right.
I know that he is there, and I know that there are other influential folks that work within the area. So I'm kind of surprised that she doesn't, but at the same time, the style that I've seen from her, I'm not surprised. To
me, it sounds like. To me, it sounds like, you know, everyone's that's in Congress right now, they're just too afraid to, you know, speak up for themselves, and it's quite unamusing.
And we've seen this. We keep seeing this. We keep seeing this, the same story. And it's you know, and unfortunately, it's not just Oswego County. It's everywhere as a whole. We've seen them, you know, where they are picking and choosing where they go. And that's where the one of the fights that are actually currently in the Supreme Court we talked about earlier, you know, is about redistricting. And we have this full frontal assault of redistricting that's going on inside of the county, inside of the country, where, you know, we're going to disenfranchise certain groups of folks and make it so that, you know, your vote is less impactful. You know, and I know within the 24th district itself, one of the most impacted areas that is, and it cuts right around Rochester. Rochester is a vapid hole when it comes to the 24th district. And to me, you know, you've got such a large swath of upstate New York. It's a large swath. It's not a small swath of upstate New York, but yet Rochester is not included in that representation. And to me, I asked the question, why? Why is it not included in that representation? Why are we sitting in moments where, you know, we're sitting there and we're asking, why is, you know, their vote not a part of a district in which everything around them affects them? 104 runs right through Rochester and it goes right to Buffalo. You've got all of the events that happen in Buffalo. They also share, and I know this, we're working in television. We know we've got stagehands that work all over the state. A lot of the stagehands will go to Buffalo and then vice versa for shows out there. Our economies are all intertwined. Syracuse as well. This is one upstate family, yet they are not included. Why is that the case? Why do we continuously see where groups of folks are disenfranchised? I can tell you, my point of view is that they don't want them included because they know where they're going to vote. They want the rural areas. They want the areas where the vote numbers are going to be down and they can control the numbers. So you start adding cities into this, and then you start adding questions and how the vote's going to go. And you want to guarantee that this is going to be this way and that way. And then we're continuously doing this redistricting purposely, not just there, but also in other states. Texas was big in the news over the summer where they were redistricting just to do it so they could pick up 5 more seats of Republicans and disenfranchise more voters. We've seen it in Georgia. We've seen it in California. They're kind of pushing back. They're pushing back against this now and trying to even the game.
Yeah, I do love how LA countered and gave him an uppercut.
Absolutely.
And they did it. Feature this for 1 second, right? They did it the Democratic way. They voted on it. They let the people. They heard what the people had to say, and they took that into consideration before they made a decision. Like, okay, this is what it is here. We're countering what you guys are doing. Speaking of redistricting and all of that, I'm sure you guys have heard on the news, what they did there in Georgia. They're there. The FBI is, what do they gather in 2020? They're going back 6 years to find what? Like, no, I'll tell you what my take on it is, right? It's another form of rigging the election. So what, Yeah,
we're going backwards in time. He can't let go of the fact that he lost that election. He can't let that go. It's got to be fake. It's got to be false. He can't let the fact go that he lost the election and that Georgia was one piece of the pie in what he lost. Even if he won Georgia, he still lost the election. Electoral count-wise, he would have still lost the election. And he's holding on to Georgia in the back of his mind, even though it wasn't close.
So if we think about this, he's using taxpayer dollars to pay the FBI to do his bidding. And why aren't we, the American people, making a lot of noise about that? Like, wait, time out. That's our money you're using for your purpose that we already discussed in 2020. All the courts in the land indicated you are out of your freaking mind. You know what I'm saying? Like this was a good election. It was fair, and you lost, buddy. Yeah. But as you say, Dakota, he cannot swallow that.
Go ahead, Jim. I know you're trying to say something.
Dude, this is a shell game. It's a huge shell game. You keep shifting things around. You're so busy being incensed about one thing, they've already moved on to the next. Yep. And so that's just one more part of the shell game.
Well, we should know this from the first time he was in the White House, right? The resident occupied the White House the first time and did things the same exact way. The only things that he had to kind of slow him down were people who knew better, right? But Absolutely. Look what he did, and he did it purposely because now there's nothing to stop him. Really nothing to stop him. When he said, how do you make these decisions? Oh, whatever goes into my head. I'm paraphrasing exactly what he said, but it's like, what? Are you serious? That's how we're living here in the United States of America? Whoa.
And the question, too, that we should all be afraid of is that during that same interview that you're referencing, they asked, what would stop you from doing something? And his response was his own morality. And
his own morality. That's what it was.
I question what the morality, where his line is. Where is his red line? Because I think that his red line is in a bizarre land of which is make believe, and we're going to see a lot of things happen if we don't start stepping up soon. And the first part of that is the midterm elections. It's the midterms. It's the midterms is where we need to really push back.
And being honest, I don't see a red line for Trump.
Right.
I think the red line's not there unless his name is on it, and he's going to keep pushing that further and further beyond as long as he can. I mean, at this point, I don't believe we're going to have a full 8 years of a Trump presidency, but he's going to push it until he can.
Fortunately, he's already done 4. Hopefully, the Constitution holds in place, and they don't let him run for another term here. I know that he's been floating that time and time again, and every now and then it seems to slip back out that he's going to run. And for that, that's frightening. But be that as it may, if we're going to throw the Constitution completely.
Look at the bright side, though. If he can run again, so can Obama.
That was where I was going to head. I was like, if he's going to run, Obama's going to run. And we saw what he's done, what he did the first 2 times. So,
oh my God,
he's going to run a third time.
I would love to see that happen, just to see where that goes. Oh my God.
But with all this being said and all of this discourse being said, I'm always that guy that tries to find the center line, and I want to be very clear, also to say that Democratic Party, we wound up here for a reason, and we wound up here because we stopped listening for quite some time, and this is how on the national politics we wound up here. On the local politics, we lost the engagement. And so we need to make sure that we're engaging, we're involving the youth, not just the youth, but also the adults. They're becoming less engaged in politics, and for that, it is problematic. And so honestly, we really, really need to look at all of those pieces. We really need to say, hey, listen, we need to make sure that we take back the Congress in November. But we also need to make sure that we don't wind up back in this scenario again, where our voice is so quashed that they can just roll over top of us in any which way possible. That's one of the biggest things that I really, really hope that we take from this experience that we're having now as we move forward, is that we find a way that to listen better. And we've seen what happens when we listen in general. We've seen how it works, where you have people that are more engaged inside of places like Oswego. Oswego in itself, in Oswego County as a whole, we've seen where it has been predominantly Republican country, where then it starts to become more of a centrist and left-leaning area, where people are more involved and they're reading up on what's going on. And I know that you've seen that out there, Jim, as well as Richard. I'm sure you've seen it in your area down there as well, where people, if they're more engaged, they are. And being here in DC, TJ and I, we are, the national news is our local news, so this is our everyday. But in places like Oswego, where those numbers can really tip backwards, and if you guys want to add in anything there, you are more than welcome to. But I think that's really kind of be one of the things where we have to engage and continue to engage and continue to listen. Otherwise, we're just going to walk away again.
We can't afford to walk away.
Is doing the research. We have a higher than average veteran population, and I think that's also helping to get people out as well, because we've seen, as veterans, we've seen things we don't want to end up being. I was in Germany in the 80s when the curtain was still up, and we were one of the first kids for the Russians when it came time for the flag to go up. So I think we know more what this could lead to. I was enlisted, I was an NCO, and I was an officer. And I know what the population of the Army is now, and I know they're will allow things to go on that other people are afraid of. I still have that hope.
And I was in too. I served during the second war, right after 9/11. So I went in. I was over stateside, but I was at Fort Detrick, Fort Meade. Spent some time in Pennsylvania, out in Missouri. I did a lot of logistics internationally for the Chemical Corps. And so, like, I know when I see things and I see how it's going as well, like, I cringe inside. This is not how I was trained. This is not how things are supposed to go. And it blows my mind sometimes when I hear the
Right.
words that are coming out of these guys' mouth. Like, why is that a thing? So, and I know that with the increased veteran population in Oswego, it plays a major factor in Oswego County as a whole. But I think that the youth as well are more engaged overall. And with that, honestly, I think it's really helping a major factor, because a lot of the youth were typically, I think, especially the ones that would be engaged, I noticed when I first moved in, they would pick up and move and go to cities, and then they would stay. But I see a lot of them are really kind of staying. You see them going to Oswego State and other places. And quite honestly, I think that that's mirroring throughout the country where kids are staying home. And if that's the case, then it's a factor, because it's going to play, I think, into these smaller towns where you're going to start to see some more of that centrist and left-leaning views, which were not there before. But, guys, I don't know what your thought process is there. So much is going on, the conversation's just not being had, I think, in these towns that are, and now they're starting to have these conversations again.
Well, speaking of veterans, I've often thought
I think
that
one of the things too is,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, speaking of veterans,
I think one of the things too up here,
I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
I think up here, the big thing is too, we're getting a lot more what you might call white collar jobs, and a lot more people are coming in from the outside. It's a lot different perspective on people who are living here now than you did 10, 15 years ago, when it was now it's no less. Now it's Constellation, it's the nuclear, another nuclear plant in here. Micron's starting to come in. I think that's going to affect it as well.
I think that is going to play a major role, as well as we bring some of these tech-heavy jobs into these smaller areas. But one of the things too that is that I wanted to kind of spend some time about talking today is where we stand inside of our approach of expanding power, and then also where we're looking down the line. The president's going to have to make concessions. We know that he's going to have to make concessions. We know it. But the real question is, what concessions is he going to have to make in this expanding power that he's trying to have? And are we going to be able to stop him from expanding too much before we get to November? That's the real question that I also have. But beside all of that, we're seeing these increased ICE detentions. The ICE is going through door to door in Minneapolis. They're going through to homes. They started an international incident yesterday morning, I believe it was, on I can't remember, actually. It was on the 28th of January. Something 28th of January. We record this on the 29th, but it's probably going to air on the 30th. But on the 28th of January, I believe it was, is when ICE went into the Ecuadorial consulate in Minneapolis. And they were forcing their way through the door.
If you test me, I will grab you. Okay. Okay. You can know that. Okay, but don't touch me. Yeah, okay. You can know that. You can know that. All right, so you go. You can know that. This is the consulate. This is the foreign government department. You can know that. All right. I'm here, cousin. All right. Yeah. Right here. All right. Yeah.
And to me, this is unbelievable because, and I want to be clear to everyone, these guys that are out there are not trained. It's 45 days. They're going through training and giving them a gun in 45 days. They have lowered the ICE training threshold to 45 days. You see in the military, you see them, we go for, I believe, my training was 17 weeks I went away for. I don't know how long you went for, Jim. 17 weeks was my basic and my specialty training. And then I had another outset of training after that. So, we are seeing a large increase of hiring from the CBP and then ICE, but they're not training them. And TJ, if you want to kind of.
Yeah, I got a lot to say about ICE. I was going to say, my thing is, I don't think it's the training there. I think it's the intel that they're receiving on the grounds. People are just letting them free run, and they're kind of just taking it as life is GTA right now, and then think they have free reign over everything when they really don't.
You're absolutely right, and you know what? It's one of those things where. Sorry, I had to step off camera for a second, get a drink, because I was actually dying over here. You're absolutely right. I see this lack of training and lack of training to deal with individuals while they're out there. It's one thing to train somebody to go out into theater. It's another thing to train somebody to go out into a theater where you have to engage the civilian population in a way that's constructive and not create a hostile environment. This is not happening. There is a reason why police officers go for so long to police academy. There's a reason why these guys spend so much time learning how to work with the population. It's not because they need to learn all of these combat skills. It's so they can learn how to speak and talk with the communication skills and understand the community that they're going to serve. And they're not getting this. 45 days and out there. And it's not okay. It's just not okay.
You said it last week. We saw the number 45, and we see why it keeps coming up. It's just going to be very amusing. 47, yeah, sorry, but it's going to be amusing to see how we move a little in a little bit of time, because to my knowledge, I think we're seeing the diminishment of the ICE functionalities, and they're not going to be able to have that free reign like they have now.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing that might take away from this whole thing with ICE is that, you've got the adults that are on the run. You've got people that are afraid to go outside of their own homes, and they can't get basic services. But the biggest thing that I really take away from this is the fact that we've got little kids. We have little kids, little children, 5-year-old children, whom are sitting in court, ICE court, with just their guardian ad litem, and you've got a guardian ad litem that's representing these kids, and they're sitting there and they're asked to defend themselves. These sometimes are 5-year-old children. The hell? How are you supposed to? How is this okay? None of this is okay. You have 5-year-old children who are sitting there in a courtroom, asked to defend themselves and why they're here. with a guardian ad litem, and sometimes when they're sitting in there, there's like 10, 15 other children. This shit's not okay. It's just not. It's bizarre land to me.
There was a reporting today that one of the oh gosh, what is her name? Anyhow, she went in to make a visit to the ICE facility where they have this 5-year-old child, and he was pretty unresponsive. She was saying he was, he appeared tired, but it was another kind of tired. A weak kind of tired. And I can't even for the life of me understand what the purpose is in holding him in an ICE facility. Like, I guess he's one of those dangerous individuals that they wanted to take off the street, right? Because come on, man.
Yeah,
I've also been following that story.
I really believe we can do better than this in this country, man. You just have to believe that.
Well, the problem is, for one thing, you've got Stephen Miller.
Oh.
You've got Stephen Miller, who was like a Nazi gnome, who's directing a lot of this. And a lot of this isn't about the kids here. It's about scaring people to bring their kids into the country. What they're trying to do is this whole intimidation is, we don't have to do it if you just don't show up.
Right.
And they don't care. They really don't care about it. It's for them, it's just part of the game. It's not real life. It certainly isn't their life. So it's all about intimidation.
No,
I believe that there's some secret agenda that they're working on that we just don't know about.
I don't think there's a secret agenda. I'm going to say this. I don't think it's a secret agenda. I think the agenda was given to us before he ran for president. It's called Project 2020. There's the agenda. Grab the book, read the thing. That's the agenda. He's been following it chapter by chapter, chapter and verse, like it's the Bible to him. That's where we're at. There's no secret agenda. That's what this is. It's ridiculous to me. And in the fact that this is happening is what it is. But yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's Project 2020.
So I tried to say before that the two of the ways, the judiciary, right? And, I kind of hold out hope that they're going to put a stop to this. So the lower courts have definitely tried to do that, but emergency docket, let's go up to the big boys and hurry up real quick, and when you make a decision, let's not sign it. Let's just make the decision, like what kind of craziness? So it gets crazier and crazier, but my point is like if we don't have the military on the people's side, we're doomed. If we don't have the judiciary on the people's side, we're doomed. Understand that we will not be the same ever again, ever.
And I think part of this is too. It's very staged, and they staged this in a way that works for them, right? There are so many lower court vacancies in parts where they know it's going to slow things up, and they're going to be able to make the argument, go and say, "Hey, listen, we can't get the representation. It has to go to the Supreme Court. It has to go up to the next level." And they can make that emergency docket argument, and they keep pushing up. They stack the courts at the higher levels with the people they want, and that's where we are. And they blocked everybody from the last president. They blocked everybody towards the end of the last president. We wanted to put in there. So he had no choice. Nobody had to take what they allowed him to put in. But at the end of the day, you're looking at a court situation where they're setting the game. They're setting the steps. They made decisions. He stacked it from the first time he was president, and now he's added on to it. It's frightening, and then you've got these judges in there who've been there for some time, and now they're showing their true colors of who they are. Now they've got a conservative Supreme Court. We've really kind of seen where Clarence Thomas lays. This guy was pretty quiet for some time, and all of a sudden, he is loud and very, very, very vocal. It's one of those things where the justice is tilted towards this political scope, which it should never have been. It was not supposed to be a political. It's not supposed to be a political court. It was designed as a separate branch for a reason. And I know in a very charged world, it's hard to make that happen 100%. But when you're a Supreme Court justice, I feel as though that you should not be weighing in, and we've seen that way too much inside of the political world. We've seen the Supreme Court's justices taking, donations and gifts, and this is something that just shouldn't be happening. That there needs to be oversight to that, and I think this is where it all comes back to. In the lower election, the midterm elections, is where it's going to be, where this starts. We've got places like the 24th district. If you get more people out to vote that care about the situation, you will start to affect that change because their voice is heard. And we've seen from the Rust Belt where the last 3 presidential elections have been decided. It has been truly decided in the Rust Belt. We've seen growing tension in Michigan, in Minnesota, in Illinois. We've seen that growing tension that grows there more and more by the day, and that Rust Belt has been deciding the last 3 presidential elections. It's been a big hand in how and who has been decided to be the president. And so, there we really have to try to get them involved. We really need to get them to that point to where they're a part of the conversation more. But in places where the Republicans have been comfortable for a very long time, for a very, very long time, we really need to get them to that point too, where they are truly able to come out and be a part of the places like Oswego County, places like Oswego and Fulton. Really, when you start to make them play defense in places where they've never had to play defense before, and then you're playing offense at a place where they want to play offense, and you're putting them completely on a defensive campaign, then they're going to lose because they're going to have to spend money in places that they didn't want to spend money, and that's what's going to happen. And so while I hope that Claudia Tenney, I really do, I just like to see her be unseated. I hope that she's unseated. I hope that she is unseated, but if she is not, I hope that they have to spend so much money in trying to keep her in office that it allows for other people in other districts to get through at the very least, because that's really what it comes down to. We've got to make them spend the money. Where are you guys at on that thought process?
No, I totally agree with you. Hitting them right in the belt where they're most prominent at. That's where they're having the most focus, trying to get all the money back that we're spending on unnecessary things. So let's look at it this way: is county going to be unnecessary in a few years? We'll see.
I mean, but at the end of the day, and I know that we're running short on time as a whole for this today's talk, but at the end of the day, I want to see a greater involvement from the community. And I know that everybody here will probably echo that same sentiment. I want to see a greater involvement, greater response from the community. I want to see a greater turnout from the small and rural towns. I want to see them be more interested in what is going on nationally. It's part of the reason why I write what I write for iHeart Oswego, trying to bring them the truth of what is actually going on down here in Washington, D.C. Because by the time they get it, it's full of spin and bull crap. It just doesn't make sense. So I hope that we have that. I hope that we have that involvement from at least this midterm elections, where people see that the things are not okay. They are not okay. And we need to make some level of change. And I know, in Jim, if you want to just so that everybody has it, I know that you guys are having another town hall again on the 14th of February. Is that it? 4th? Or
14th of February, yep, right here in Oswego. And I will tell
14th
you
of February,
that
they're having a town hall.
Small town. Yeah, one of the things about small towns is one of the things we found very effective is letter to the editor. A lot of people still read the paper up here. A lot of people go to iHeart Oswego and read. That's where my assemblyman, who I don't like to say his name, puts a lot of stuff out. And so we are being able to get to that, to the grassroots that way. And we're getting more and more people to the legislature meetings. It went from being 6 or 8 people to now they fill the room and they've got another conference room full listening on the speaker. So the more that they see, the more they have to listen. So it's just constantly just dogging it, just going after
it. And it's and I think that's where that voice, and I know that Oswego is one drop, but it's a good lens to what small town America is and how we have to communicate, and it's doable. And I hope that the party sees that it's doable to communicate in small town America. There are so many people who want to be involved. We have to give them the reason to be involved. And I think that that's where we kind of fell off the course a lot as well, is that we had not had them involved inside of small town America. And we need to have that community. We need to have that involvement. We could sit here and we could go around in circles and talk about how bad this administration is and all the things, but we still need to have also a plan for what we do next. That's what is most important. And to do that, you really need to be inside of these moments where you're having a town hall where you can have those discussions on what to do and how to do for based on the place where you live. I know that in places like Fulton, New York, they're dealing with an 11% budget tax increase, and this is echoed in small towns all over the country. I can't count how many times I've heard where you've got it's massive tax increase because the budget was not correct, and the last 4 people that were elected for the last 20 years, ran the town's credit and budget into the crap. And so they've got no ability to govern appropriately. And so then they get the new guys in there and there's nothing they can do. And so everybody throws their hands up and walks away. And I think that these town halls are going to be important because this is where those discussions can be had of saying, hey, listen, we're here, but what do we do next? And that's really kind of my thought, in general. TJ, you last thoughts for the show?
Yeah, I mean, just like I said last week, these midterms are larger than they seem. This year we've seen the negative effects of not voting, and not being informed about who you're voting for. So make sure you go out to, things like these town halls and things of that nature to get informed and make a concise decision on your own on who to vote for.
Absolutely. Richard, last thoughts?
Indivisible. Boy, that word rings, because that's what we need to focus on, being indivisible, not divided in this country. I think we can make some inroads if we just stand for the truth instead of all of these lies that are being given to us, and stand against this evil. This is purely evil government that we have in this country, man. Before they ruin us, listen. Really quick, Donald Trump. Being a New Yorker, Donald Trump. Right, I remember reading about him, pretty animatedly and on the daily news and stuff. And man, like we really knew what this guy was about. you know, if you paid attention. And if everybody's paying attention now, and you really don't see what this guy is about, then I have to say you've moved to his form of alternative reality. Because what's staring us as Americans in the face, the dilemma. Do we want this country to continue, and do we want to continue in this country as we've known for 250 years, damn it? Or are we going to stop whenever this orange guy decides, like, no, let's just blow it all up. Let's do it my way. We got to stand against that. That's my final word. And I want to fight. Punch that guy.
I'd like to give you the final thoughts as well on where we are. Tell us where your final thoughts are.
I think we're in a good spot. I think we can be in a better spot. I think we need to literally just stick together. Just like he said, indivisible. All stick together for what's right and not what's easy, not what you're being fed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that you guys are up there right now experiencing a blizzard. So I think that's part of our connection issues right now with you. But, you know, I hope that you guys are staying warm up there, because I know I've never seen snow before until I moved to Fulton and Oswego, let me tell you. But with that all being said, we are on the precipice, and we're going to be talking about the midterms for the next several months. We're going to be talking about them. We're going to be engaged in that conversation. We hope to have the Indivisible Oswego County back multiple times to chat with. We're going to bring multiple others into chat as well, bringing the real story and the local story to you guys, the viewer. We are on our 250th year. We should be in a celebratory mood. We've made it 250 years. We'd like to make it another 250 more. In order to do that, in my eyes, we need to be involved in the conversation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We got to be involved in the conversation. We can't just say whatever man anymore. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because then we wind up with people like Donald Trump and his current cabinet. We wind up with people who don't know what they're doing, like, you know,
his current cabinet,
interior, his entire cabinet. And specifically, I was going to go with our fake Barbie doll.
Oh my God!
Interior of so, you know, but like I said, we have to be involved in the conversation. We have to be a part of that conversation. It's very important that we are part of that. And as things progress throughout this year, I hope that we're able to bring the news to everyone and the honest news to you guys, and so that you're able to decipher what is from what is not. And so with that, I wish everybody a good week. And we will be back next week with the news. And we'll be talking about the same rundowns of the things that have happened throughout the week. So have a great week, guys, and we'll see you.